Mr. Allison, seconded by Mr. Van Kesteren, moves that in the opinion of the House, anaphylaxis is a serious concern for an increasing number of Canadians, and the government should take the appropriate measures necessary to ensure these Canadians are able to maintain a high quality of life. Debate. The honourable member for Niagara West, Glanbrook.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is certainly my pleasure to stand before the House today to discuss my motion M-230. The motion M-230 reads that in the opinion of the House, anaphylaxis is a serious concern for the increasing number of Canadians, and the government should take the appropriate measures necessary to ensure these Canadians are able to maintain a high quality of life. And if I could just go over sort of the background how we got here. I raised this issue in the previous Parliament, and as a result of an election, it didn't get a chance to make it all the way through. And so what I want to do today is talk a bit about what this is, what is anaphylaxis, what are some of the challenges that people have to deal with, and then talk about what is being done by our government and what we can do to help address this issue. And I am grateful for the number of people that have helped me understand this issue in great detail. I think it's important to explain to all Canadians exactly what that is. Anaphylaxis is a severe medical condition and a serious public health issue. Unfortunately, there are no cures for anaphylaxis or food allergies in general, at least not yet. The only way to prevent an anaphylactic reaction is to avoid the allergen causing it. The best way to diminish the likelihood of a reaction is through greater public awareness of the condition and its triggers. Anaphylactic reactions are caused by a negative response to an allergen. Allergens can be in the form of medications, insect bites, latex, certain foods. In fact, there are over 200 recognized allergens. The top 10 food allergens are eggs, seafood, milk, tree nuts, sesame, sulfites, wheat, mustard, soy, peanuts, and other cereal grains containing gluten. Adults are more prone to reactions from medications, insect bites and stings, while foods are the most common allergic trigger in children and in young people. There are many symptoms that can occur as a result of anaphylactic reaction. They generally happen within minutes of coming into contact with the allergen, although a reaction could also occur several hours after exposure. There are 5 areas where symptoms present themselves: the skin, the respiratory system, the gastrointestinal system, the cardiovascular system, and mood. When symptoms present themselves, usually 2 or more parts of the body are affected. Symptoms present themselves on the skin 80 to 90% of the time, while the respiratory system is affected in 70% of cases. The gastrointestinal system is affected in 30 to 45% of cases, while the cardiovascular system is affected 10 to 45% of the time. In addition, the central nervous system is affected in 10 to 15% of anaphylactic reactions. Victims of anaphylactic can exhibit symptoms such as hives, itching, swelling, rash, coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, hay fever symptoms, and chest pain. They can experience cramps and nausea, develop a weak pulse and lightheadedness, and even go into shock. Mood and behavior can also be affected, bringing on a feeling of anxiety and a sense of impending doom. The most serious symptoms are breathing difficulties and the drops in blood pressure, both of which could be life-threatening. The throat constricts, oxygen is not delivered to the brain, and one could experience a panic attack and actually go into shock. While these signs or symptoms arise, patients must immediately receive medical attention, specifically a dose of epinephrine. Those with serious allergy carry an epinephrine auto-injector or an EpiPen or twin inject to prevent an anaphylactic reaction when exposed to the allergen. If left untreated, one could fall unconscious and possibly die. Clearly, anaphylaxis is a serious and dangerous medical condition. It is estimated that 2.5 million Canadians live with anaphylactics, and this number continues to rise every year. It is projected that 3,500 Canadians experience anaphylactic shock each year from eating the wrong foods. Of those 3,500, about a dozen die. 1 in 2 Canadians know someone with a serious food allergy. Alarming, they are the most prevalent in young children, specifically those under the age of 3. Close to 6% of children below the age of 3 and 300,000 youths under the age of 18 are affected by general food allergies. Disturbingly, the frequency of food allergies has increased by 350% from 1996 to 2002. The prevalence of peanut and nut allergies has increased by over 250% over that time, and it should be noted that the majority of those allergic are under the age of 30, with the excess of those being born in 1992. As such, it is no surprise that more than 40% of Canadians examine the ingredient information on food labels either for themselves or for someone living with anaphylaxis. The most recognized allergy is the one to peanuts. Peanuts and tree nuts are responsible for the majority of fatal anaphylactic reactions. A study examining 13 fatal and near-fatal causes in children concluded that 10 out of the 13 incidences occurred as a result of reactions to peanuts or nuts. Even with the greater vigilance, someone with the peanut allergy or nut allergy will have an accidental episode every 3 to 5 years. Accidental exposures occur as a result of not being able to see the residue of the food allergen and can be left on the appliance or the piece of the furniture. Airborne proteins can also cause serious issues as they can induce an asthmatic attack. These statistics emphasize the magnitude of the anaphylaxis and the importance of bringing it to national attention. Many Canadians, including numerous families from my constituency, face a frequent and frightening threat of an anaphylactic reaction. Liam and Lucas, 2 young children from my riding, both live with a peanut and tree nut allergy. Liam has had 3 serious allergic reactions, one of which required immediate emergency medical assistance as he was transported to the hospital by an ambulance, and thankfully he was okay. Similarly, Lucas has to avoid many areas and events where he could come in contact with allergens which affect him. So he avoids social gatherings, sporting events, and traveling on airplanes as the risk is just too great. David, another young man from my riding, lives with a serious latex allergy. He has experienced several reactions while undergoing an operation. His condition was stabilized by the medical staff, but not by the terrifying family. This goes to show you that even in Canada, with our most health-conscious environments, anaphylaxis demands more awareness and attention. Another young man, also named Lucas, lives with a life-threatening dairy allergy. Lucas also has a serious heart condition, but the risk of anaphylactic reaction, which worries his mother most. Families dealing with anaphylaxis try to vet through everything that comes into their household. However, those who live with anaphylaxis are most at risk outside of the house, where one has little or no control over the surroundings. Parents try to teach their children the risk of the conditions so that children can safely interact with friends and teachers. Traveling by airplanes is perhaps the best example of a high-risk environment where peanuts and mixed nuts are common snack foods. With airplanes being so enclosed, the risk of having an allergic reaction to a nearby allergen, residue, or airborne protein is very high. Air travel is unnerving for those living with anaphylaxis, as flying at 35,000 feet up in the air leaves them highly vulnerable and far from medical faculties. I've heard from many people struggling with anaphylaxis. I've also heard and had many discussions with members of the Canadian Anaphylaxis Initiative, or CAI, and Niagara Anaphylaxis Support and Knowledge, or NASC. These 2 groups do great work spreading awareness of anaphylaxis. They improve the lives of Canadians living with the condition by promoting anaphylactic safe environments, as well as educating governments, organizations, and business to do the same. CAI and NASC and those who live with anaphylaxis recognize total elimination of various allergens as an unrealistic goal. Instead, their objective is to reduce accidental exposure to allergens as much as possible. The ideal way to achieve this goal is to increase the awareness about the condition. That is what motion M-230 seeks to do. With more awareness, Canadians will become familiar with the risk of anaphylaxis and will hopefully take precautions to limit accidental exposure for those who may be vulnerable. This, in turn, will create a safer environment for everyone. There should be supportive and alert community that ensures preventative measures are taken to avoid anaphylactic reactions. It is important to mention that preliminary steps have been taken to spread awareness of anaphylaxis and to recognize its severity. Individuals, companies, and governments have acted appropriately in this regard. For instance, in 2005, the passing of Sabrina's Law by the Ontario government was a good step forward. In 2003, grade 9 student Sabrina Shannon experienced an anaphylactic reaction to a dairy protein and tragically passed away. Her death led to an important piece of legislation, the very first kind of its in the world. It guarantees that all Ontario school boards have policies and procedures in place to respond to the threat posed by anaphylaxis. Some of these policies are comprised of education and training for staff to administer treatment to students who suffer an anaphylactic reaction. The result of this new law is increased protection of the thousands of children who were at risk before its implementation. In the private sector, the Toronto Blue Jays offer a peanut control zone for three of their home games in the previous season. These zones ensured that fans at risk of a serious anaphylactic reaction were given a safer place to enjoy the game. Similarly to the Blue Jays organization, there are several practical steps ordinary people could take to prevent anaphylactic reactions. People could find out if friends, neighbors, or co-worker are anaphylactic. If hosting an event which includes a guest with a severe allergy, the host could look up recipes that do not contain products that would relate to the allergen. Furthermore, one could thoroughly clean food preparation surfaces before cooking to ensure no potential allergen residue is present. It is my hope that we will see more individuals, organizations, and businesses take similar precautions in the future. It must be mentioned that this government has recognized the importance of addressing anaphylaxis and has acted on previous recommendations by providing funding to the allergy research. In March of 2012, my colleague, the Honourable Minister of State for Science and Technology, announced $36.5 million to support Allergen, Allergy, Genes and Environment network of centres of excellence for the next 7 years. Allergen does important work in researching allergies and reduces the risk of anaphylaxis. Also, in August of 2012, new regulations came into effect which enhance the labeling of food priority allergens on prepackaged retail foods. These regulations will help consumers distinguish which foods are safe and which products they should avoid. Finally, I want to draw to attention to this government's decision to designate May as National Anaphylaxis Month. It is evident that progress has been made in addressing anaphylaxis. However, like other public health concerns in Canadian communities, more can be done. More awareness of this serious medical condition is needed on a nationwide level. That is why I urge the House to approve my motion and launch anaphylaxis onto the national stage. The motion, which will promote greater awareness, and since there is no cure for the anaphylaxis, awareness is the best way to mitigate the risk. By adopting this motion, the Canadian government will be taking another step forward to ensuring that Canadians living with anaphylaxis are able to maintain a higher quality of life. I am certain my colleague from St. Catharines shares my feelings on this issue. He first introduced the motion in the 39th Parliament, but unfortunately the motion expired when an election was called back in 2008. I would also like to thank him for starting the process and for his continued support to see anaphylaxis recognized as a serious concern. I would also like to thank all the members of the community who continue to support and see anaphylaxis recognized as a serious concern. I would like to thank all the members of my community and from those across Canada who have helped bring this important issue forward. A special thank you goes to Mindy Ferkel, Cindy Paskey, Chris George, and Debbie Bruce for their tremendous help. Now, I realize there's many others as well, but these are individuals that I've had the pleasure and the opportunity to work with on this issue on an ongoing basis, and I appreciate their tremendous help for that. Their dedication to anaphylaxis awareness is inspiring, and their support for this motion from day one is greatly appreciated. I would also like to thank my colleagues in the House and from all parties for their kind words and support. With so much encouragement from so many people, I am determined to see this motion passed. We must recognize the seriousness of anaphylaxis at the federal level as a critical problem affecting too many Canadians. This motion aims to make their lives easier and would contribute to much-deserved peace of mind. When voting for this motion, I ask you to consider the story of Liam, Lucas, and David, as well as the 2.5 million Canadians who live every day at risk of an anaphylactic reaction. With this motion, we will send a clear message to all those who live with this condition that the Canadian government and the Canadian people recognize their struggles and that we are taking action to improve their lives. I look forward to seeing this motion receive the support of all parties in the House. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Saint-Bruno-Saint-Hubert.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'aimerais remercier le député de Niagara-Ouest et Glanbrook d'avoir amené ce sujet à débattre en Chambre. Je sais aussi qu'il y a 500 000 Canadiens qui souffrent de l'anaphylaxie et qui vivent tous sous le stress. Par contre, je sais aussi que ce n'est pas la première fois que le député amène cette motion en Chambre pour être votée, mais ma question pour le député, Monsieur le Président, est-ce que la motion est encore nécessaire, encore plus sous cette forme, alors que son gouvernement était au pouvoir depuis 2006? Est-ce que le député aurait souhaité plus d'attention de la part de son gouvernement sur le sujet?
The honourable member for Niagara West, Glanbrook.
I really didn't think an issue like this would get politicized. That's always an interesting comment on something like this, but some people can't help themselves, I guess. You know, I guess this issue has been brought forward a couple of times. It hasn't made its way through the House. My concern is about awareness, and I don't think our jobs as members of Parliament will ever be completed when it comes to levels of awareness that we bring forward for certain issues. As I mentioned, my colleague from St. Catharines brought it forward. The House, we had an election. I also brought it forward in a previous Parliament. We had an election. This is anaphylaxis, I believe, is an issue we'll continue to need to talk about as we move forward over time, whether it's other additional monies for research, whether it's coordinating strategies for education. There's a number of things that we can do and need to move forward on that, and we'll continue to push this issue, and we continue every chance we get to talk about it and raise this concern. Thank you.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for his hard work on this important file from Niagara and Glanbrook. And also, I'm very proud to lend my support to this important motion, and I think it's very important to many Canadians. And I want to congratulate him for his hard work on this file, and I know that it's long overdue. So I want to ask the member the question: how important is plain language on allergens on food products, and if he can elaborate on that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Niagara West, Glanbrook.
And I too want to thank the Minister of Health for the leadership that she's taken on labeling, on research dollars, etc. And I think that that's one of the challenges we have. You know, when you have a label that says "may contain," that's not very reassuring for those that are trying to drill down to exactly what is in the product. And so, under the leadership of this minister and this government, we've certainly moved in that direction to make labeling more concise, more clear to understand. You know, I think the challenge that we sometimes forget with people that suffer from these allergens or these allergic reactions is that they're never sure when they go to a product off the shelf if it may contain small amounts. And I think that's why labeling is so important, and education is important, whether it's additional education, research, etc., that those individuals have that choice so they can actually make a choice as to whether they want that product or they need to avoid that product. So once again, I thank the Minister of Health for her leadership in the labeling issue on this particular file.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to really thank my colleague from Niagara West, Glanbrook, and also the member from St. Catharines. I think many of us in the House here have actually had experiences where friends or loved ones have actually died because of allergic reactions. I had a good friend of mine in university attending a wedding, and she had a piece of the cake which had peanut oil in it. Nobody knew, and nobody was aware of the situation. And my colleague brings up the importance of May being National Anaphylaxis Month and raising awareness. because we can't have labels and we can't have some information out, but unless people are aware of what the dangers of this condition is. I was wondering if he could take a few moments and comment about his initiative to raise awareness and how important it is.
The honourable member for Niagara West Glanbrook, you only have about 25 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think it's fair to say that unless you've had to live with this as a constant reminder, you have no understanding about how dangerous the potential that is. And I think that everything we can do as a government and as businesses and individuals to let people know. There's still a lot of people that have never heard of anaphylactic shock, and I think that's key. And so I think it is a multi-pronged approach. We'll look at education, we'll look at research, and we'll figure out a way to continue to raise this issue so that people have the tools they need.
Reprise de débat, resuming debate.